Some say it's about the people. Others argue the natural beat comes from the music. Or maybe it's in the food or the fashion that they put on. Confusion comes when they look into the animals. Small and big, they come in all sizes. All that claim citizenry. The big five that many travel across the globe to see. The birds that add color and flavor to the skies. Not to speak about the vast landscape, the untapped forests and natural resources, the waterways that lead to the sandy beaches, all God-given from above. We call it home, is the beauty of Africa.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting and informative show about the Bab Chats with me, your host, Thandiwe Chimbambo. Today is the 11th of September 2021, and we are marking the 20th anniversary of the September 11 attacks on the Americans on the USA that was initiated by the Al Qaeda Islamist terrorist group. These attacks happened on Tuesday, 11th of September in 2001, and it claimed 3,000 lives, and it costed us up to more than 10 billion US dollars in property damages. But today, however, our topic is very, very much closer to home. We want to discuss the topic of the vaccine rollout in our continent. So basically, the vaccine, the COVID-19 has been with us for almost 2 years now, and then we don't have, as Africans, we do not have the capacity yet to develop our own vaccine. So in my panel today, I've got Janice and Aspire that are going to help us to understand and give an outlook of what has been happening in our continent. We are going to discuss how Africans have been so far managed to access the vaccines and the effects that it has had on us. And then we're going to also discuss, obviously, the possibilities of creating our own vaccines as Africans with, obviously, the help from the African Union. In my panel today, I've got Dennis from Kenya and I've got Aspire from Harare. Aspire and Dennis, may you please introduce yourself? I'm going to start with Aspire.
Well, I think Aspire has dropped off temporarily, but we should be expecting him back. So shall I just go ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So hi, and thank you so much for having me, Thandiwe. My name is Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Nairobi-based lawyer and consultant. I work in different sectors, from international trade law to social media consulting, among other things. I do panel discussions as well, such as this. I'm also an author of various articles and papers, and I'm really happy to be here today. Sorry that I don't have a suit on today. It's a bit cold in Nairobi, so I hope you'll excuse
Nairobi.
me.
I see you wearing your hat and your jacket.
Yeah, we are just from winter, and it's now gradually moving towards the short rainy season, so you have to keep warm. So I hope you don't mind.
When is your winter that side? When is your winter that side?
Well, our winter begins at around July, right up to August. But this year has been particularly cold. Honestly, I've never felt such cold. It was crazy in Nairobi.
It's everywhere. Yeah. Like, see, we are still wearing our cardigans. Like, 1st of September is supposed to be our spring. We're supposed to start our summer, but you're still cold.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been wild. Global warming is working in a different way here. It's getting quite colder. But anyway, let's just hope for the best.
Exactly. Aspire, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, Thandiwe. Thanks for having me. My name is Aspire Mudavanhu. I'm here for the aspect of health. I have a health background, and I studied microbiology and genetics at the University of Zimbabwe, which is where I currently I'm staying in Zimbabwe, Harare, and also tropical animal health at the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Belgium. And currently, I'm studying for my PhD in biology, also focusing on the epidemiology of disease in the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. So I'm happy to be here, and it's nice to meet you, Thandiwe and Dennis. Let's do this.
Yo, guys, now you've made me feel so small. With your highly qualified qualifications, now I'm feeling so small to even participate in this discussion. Okay, let's get to this. Okay, so we have been victims. I don't know if it's victims or if you are participants of this, but looking back, when we used to when you used to study, we were told that there was TB, there was these pandemics, and we would just imagine how terrible it was. Like when we first heard about TB, that was in the 1920s, we would hear that there was no cure, people were just dying, people wearing masks, and we were imagining, how can you wear masks the whole day? Like imagine in a world where everyone is wearing masks. But now it got to us in last year, everyone in the world was wearing a mask because of this COVID-19. So basically, it has killed so many people, millions of people. And now we just want to find out from the African perspective to say, we have been relying mostly on foreign donations. We have not have the capacity of manufacturing our own vaccine. Most of our donations have been coming from Asia, particularly in Europe. And I know that India had its own breakout just recently. I think it was a few months ago, to the extent that it could not provide us, it could no longer supply the vaccines that it had in chain for us. So because of its own second variant and stuff, it could no longer supply us as Africans. So I just wanted you guys to help me tackle this issue and discuss how we can improve our situations as Africans. So firstly, I want us to discuss how we have managed to previously contain previous pandemics such as HIV, such as Ebola, such as cholera, such as measles. I know that many of the important vaccinations we get just after birth, like those BCG children's vaccines that they have to go and occasionally attend. But I just want to know, like, how have you managed previous pandemics as African continent? Dennis, I'll start with you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, as you know, Thandiwe, it's been quite an intense period. We've had a lot of issues with vaccine rollout, especially in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, of course. So you've asked how we've handled previous pandemics and how we've attended to them. The thing is, most of the vaccines that we have acquired previously with previous diseases and viruses have come from abroad. So historically, Africa has been an importer of vaccines, right? I'm sure Aspire will let us know more about that, since he's into epidemiology. But historically, from my observations, is that Africa has been gaining vaccines from abroad, as opposed to being a primary manufacturer, which is something that we need to look upon, and we're going to discuss this further into the discussion. Aspire? Yeah, I think that there's a bit of connection with a bit of connection issues there. So yeah, that's okay. We can just proceed. So
Dennis, I think I'm losing you today. Hi guys, it's Thandiwe. Welcome to Baobab Chat. I just heard something that I wanted to share with you guys, reflecting back on 2020 and our generation in general. So I know that a lot of of us now are being hijacked by the internet. We are so much onto social media. Everything, our lives, they revolve around social media. I just wanted to offer a words of encouragement to my fellow people and my fellow friends and everyone else who's on Baobab chats. Do not let Facebook intimidate you or the social statuses of everyone, and think that because you don't have what they have or you don't have the same opportunities that they had, now you're failing behind. Keep hoping, keep up your dreams, and know that no one has it all. Everyone is suffering, everyone is going through things, and then they are just good at hiding it. That's why you don't see it. So just focus on your dreams, focus on your career, focus on what you think, what you know is important, on the end goal. Don't be distracted by what you see on the social media, because everyone else is trying to show off what is best out of their lives. We don't go to social media to show our weaknesses, to show our failures, but we go there to show our strength. And at the end of the day, it ends up discouraging other people into thinking that they are not doing enough. Do not listen, do not be discouraged. Just focus on your dreams, focus on your goals, and associate yourself with the right people that can help you and encourage you and motivate you to become the person that you want to be. Hi guys, sorry there we had a technical glitch. So we're gonna start with Aspire. Aspire, we lost you there first. We were discussing about how Africa managed to contain the previous pandemics. I know this is not the first one. We have had Black Death, we've got Spanish flu, we have had HIV, we have had so many diseases that attacked us in Africa. So we just wanted to find out from your perspective, how did we as Africans manage to contain previous pandemics from the medical point of view?
Well, yeah, Joseph, just like you said, we have faced not this COVID as the first pandemic, but we have had many before. And most of them were viral and of animal origin, of course. But we have seen there's something lacking within our healthcare system. Our response to outbreaks is quite slow. For the many times that we've come across outbreaks, but in the end, with putting structures in place, we have managed to secure our people from the deadly clutches of these viral pandemics. But yes, it was not an easy task. But to say the least, we have been relying on outside help on all these excursions, and it is time, like you said, that we have our own thing going, so that we don't have to do this all the time, that we are struck with the pandemic, or even with local epidemics, that we have to rely on outside help. We have seen with Ebola in the West African space. For some time, this epidemic was led to roll out by itself. So there was no medical intervention of whatsoever sort. It's not the first time that we are seeing something like this happening. But I'm glad with COVID-19, just because it has struck the world over, and everyone is taking upon themselves to make a change, to do something about it. And even the slowest African countries are actually responding to it.
Exactly. Thanks, Aspire. You pointed out there that the response, with the way that we respond, it's very slow. And I totally agree with you. When it came to Ebola, I know it affected mostly the northern and central part of Africa. And the fact that South Africa is one of the leading African economies at the moment, we did not respond, we did not even act, we did not, because it was not affecting us. It was just there. in the central and in the north. So our involvement in our participation in the vaccine development and in the way that we could have eradicated this Ebola, because when it first hit us, we should have known, we should have noticed the gap that is there to say we don't have that medical institution that can be able to contain or to sustain a pandemic if it comes. So we should have seen this Ebola as a warning or as a starting point, but we did not. And I'm saying like this from the South African point of view because it did not get to Southern Africa, so the response was very slow. And over to you, Janice. I just wanted I didn't hear you the first time. We had a technical issue. Can you just please explain how Africans managed to contain the previous pandemics that we had?
Okay, so like I had previously mentioned, historically the vaccine agenda and how Africa has responded to various pandemics has been dictated by the West. We have a high reliance on Western countries. So, like I was saying previously, a lot of our help when it comes to various pandemics, such as the recent Ebola pandemics in Central and West Africa, has been greatly assisted by Western states, with something that we need to move from. We need to gradually graduate to a self-reliant position, whereby we are relying on ourselves as a continent, as countries, and this can be aided by our institutions that should be there to serve African interests, such as Africa CDC, as well as the African Union. So, despite the fact that historically we have relied upon the West to help us through the various pandemics, we need to bring a culture of self-reliance, and this is something that can be aided. I just get into it right now because what we need is funding that is not only from Africa, but that is also directed towards Africa. The thing is, the vaccine agenda and various pandemics have been supported by Western countries, meaning that they dictate what happens. So, in an event where, the thing is, most African research institutions that are there to research into pandemics and vaccines rollouts and things like this are funded by Western countries. Okay, so of course Western interest will be prioritized. So in case there's a pandemic such as we had with COVID-19, they will obviously prioritize themselves first, which is why we did not have a lot of these vaccines being prioritized in Africa, or manufacturing being prioritized here. Is because these Western countries are the ones who are funding us. So at the end of the day, they have the final say. So what we need is to empower the African Union and the Africa CDC, and to empower various research institutions in the various countries all across the continent to be able to so that we can be self-reliant, so that when we are seeing research into various pandemics, and these will come in the future, this has been mentioned a lot of times, so that when we have future pandemics, we can have research starting right here in the continent. Okay, so as much as we have researchers in Europe, in Asia, in the Americas, we can also have research being supported here in Africa, because we do have the expertise. Aspire has said that he's actually doing his PhD into epidemiology. We have experts. People are very educated in Africa. We just need the support from our own so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Denise, you mentioned there that it's all about funding. So basically, our problem here is about money. We don't have enough financial resources to fund ourselves to be able to produce our own vaccine. But if you are taking this from an African point, from an Afrocentric point of view, have you heard, maybe it's me, before that, like maybe as you grow up, that Africa, we've got our own natural resources. We've got our own, like, we are the home of human evolution. We are the home of medicines, like all those medications and stuff, they come naturally from Africa. So if you are talking about funding, it's not like we are siding with the Western side of medication or that we are, because we have had so many practices in Africa and so many solutions that people have been trying to implement, like in so many different African countries, whereby they do the traditional stuff to eradicate this COVID-19. So are you saying that it's all about funding? And if it's about funding, how far do we still have to go when it comes to finance? And also I wanted to highlight the point of trust. Like when it comes to African countries, we are trusted less because maybe of our economic standpoint of view, someone is likely to buy a vaccine that is developed in Belgium than a vaccine that is developed in Kenya or in Zimbabwe or in Botswana because of trust. So basically, it's not all about finance. We also need to trust within each other. And it all begins with us as people, as Africans, as Black people. Do you know that we discriminate ourselves more than the other race discriminates against us? So I'm trying to indicate here to say, can't we have our own natural stuff? Like I remember Madagascar during the first days, it had developed its own a vaccine, but I don't think it was approved by the WHO, World Health Organization. So is this about trust or is this about finance?
Okay, I'll begin with your final point over there. The thing is, African governments would prefer ready-made vaccines. Okay, the issue here is management. Okay, we also, yes, we need political will, so that we need our governments first of all to have the will to support African institutions in the development of these various vaccines. I don't want to throw shade on Madagascar with the drink that the government had made and told people that it's going to cure COVID. That is not the kind of vaccine that we want to see. We need a more serious approach, not just some guys making some drink and saying. Okay, what I mean by serious is, I mean, we need professionals to be supported to actually do proper research. Okay, because like I was saying, we do have the expertise. Yeah, we do have the expertise. People like Aspire are very educated. We have various experts right here in Africa. What we need is proper support from our governments to support these institutions. And we cannot say that it's about the money, that we don't have the money, because previously, like in this pandemic, we saw vaccine trials being carried out in various countries like Vietnam. These are middle income countries. Okay, so we are basically at par.
India.
It is not exactly, and India. It is not that Africa is poor or anything like that. Okay, we just need the proper support. So if Asian institutions can support their own into vaccine research, then we need African institutions to support our own in such research. What we need is the will. We have the expertise. We just need the will, so that we are not, I think Africa is addicted to relying on on the West, and for a long time this has been the case, and we need to move away from that. We need to be self-reliant. I mean, I admire the Chinese approach, where they are very self-reliant, so that they support their own aggressively. And this is the kind of approach that we need. Fine, some people might not like it because their interests are vested there, but in the long run, it will not serve us to continue relying on the West exclusively. Okay, the best we can do is have a symbiotic relationship, but at the same time, we cannot just stay here waiting for months until Western countries are fully vaccinated and then they can throw us some vaccines. This is unfortunate. This is embarrassing. This is sad. We need to be self-reliant in this. We need to make sure that when the next pandemic hits, because it will hit, we are ready, and we have the infrastructure, we have the financing, we have the will. We are ready to go, because there's no point in educating Africans if they're not going to use their knowledge for purposes of serving Africa. Thanks.
And you have seen how Europeans and Americans manage, maybe Asians as well now, we cannot leave them out of the picture, how they manage to exploit all the resources from us. If we, like, for example, it's not all about the natural resources. Remember, they used to exploit gold and all the stuff from us before we were born. So now we are talking about human resources. We are talking about the capacity of the people that we have, like you mentioned, Aspire there. But the moment that they see that there is a brilliant, I'm gonna equate this to maybe football. You can see that so many aspiring footballers like Lukaku, Pogba, they all come from Africa. So whatever we do or whatever idea we try to come up with, they exploit and then they take it as their own. So whatever we have here, and we think like Aspire, you had is studying in Belgium and stuff. So whatever we have, maybe because of our poverty, they always find a way to take it and make it their own. There was a comment there from Chinyai saying Madagascar, we had the Madagascar issue. So I was also optimistic about that during the first days, and I'm like, why can't we adopt this Madagascan stuff and stuff? But then I realized that when it comes to sciences, I think Aspire would agree with me, and also you, Janice, that there are some laws, there are some procedures that you need to take, especially when you're conducting a full research study. We need to have all the scientific evidence. We need to have all the side effects and everything so that it can be at least approved by the World Health Organizations. So it all goes back not only for trust and not only for financial reasons. We also need to have scientifically approved stuff as Africans, that there are not going to be any side effects, because you might this medicine, like, I don't really have much knowledge in the world of medicine, but I know that you cannot just say you take this medicine and give to somebody. Maybe it works for this person, and the next person is going to give terrible reactions. The next point that I wanted to discuss, I've seen we've lost some fire there. The next point that I needed to discuss with you guys was the challenges that we are facing as the African continent. And I know we've already discussed the finance, we've already discussed the trust issues. Let's also discuss, Dennis, the governments that we have here in Africa and the role that they are playing. We have seen in South Africa that our own health minister have been fired as Mkhize because of the corruption on the digital vibes. So is it because that Africans, we take the first opportunity that we have when we get money to exploit and steal from our own? I think let's go to Aspire before we lose him again. Aspire, I think you just have to say all you have to say while we still have you here before we lose you here again. Okay, how about you, Aspire?
Okay, I've seen in the comment section. I'm sorry about disappearing and coming back just like that. The internet is not so good over here. But I've seen in the comment section about what happened to our own medication. Says we have a lot of such medicinal plants going around the African space, with each country having a sort of its own mixture.
Exactly.
And Madagascar was at a good point going towards that. But we need further research into validating such, because with all other medicine, be it malaria drug, be it everything, most of them, they are just plant-based. And such discoveries come from very simple identification of plants that have worked for something else. For example, a cold, and such plant can be used in treatment against COVID-19. Here in Zimbabwe, there's a plant that has gone away. We don't know how it has impacted people's lives, but a lot of people are relying on it. It goes by the local name Zumbani, and a lot of people, if you were to take a poll, they would say that plant has saved their lives. So there's so much going on around.
What is your opinion on Zumbani traditional medicine?
Yeah. Well, it's deeply rooted not only on a scientific space, but also on what I believe as an African. We have had our ancestors, cultural lines, having so much reliance on plant-based products,
Exactly.
and they have lived like they've been only learning from them, but this
Aspire, we are losing you, your network.
some Egypt,
Maybe you can try to join with audio.
those were the first make an op-
Dennis, what is your take on African medication? Like Aspire has been saying, I know different regions of Africa have got their own original medicine that they know, like this is our own homemade stuff. You know, as Africans, we are always coming up with stuff. So I just wanted to know from your perspective, from the legal perspective, what do you think about these African natural traditional medicines?
All right. Well, to start off, I'll say traditional medicine is not just an African concept. It exists globally. We have natural remedies, in every continent, every country historically, because before the advent of modern medicine, we relied on traditional healers all over the world, really,
Exactly.
for different diseases and ailments. Some were definitely okay, some were not, some were just placebos. Um, what I think is that natural medicines definitely have a place in the modern medical sphere, especially when we merge the traditional medicine to modern medicine. We really get some brilliant solutions. And what I think we need is that we need funding into natural medicines and how they can play a part in modern diseases, because they already exist and we have various experts, if I may call them that, in these spheres. Once they're supported with research, so that we don't have people concocting some random concussions and bottling them up and passing them off as a cure to all manner of diseases, so that we're not misleading people, we're not exploiting our people, but we're actually helping them. So I think traditional medicine is fine as long as it is supported by science. I think we need funding, and I think with the right support, traditional medicine has a very good role play, because this is something that it is a phenomenon that exists all over the world, whichever continent you go.
Exactly.
If you go to South America, you'll find ayahuasca, and they exist all over the world. It is not just an African concept. Traditional medicine definitely has a place in the modern society. It just needs the right support and financing and research, so that we can create a combination of solutions with modern medicine and traditional medicine, because modern medicine actually borrowed a lot. If it was not for traditional medicine, modern medicine would not exist. So yeah, it definitely has a place in society. Yeah.
I like you, Dennis. Like when I was under this impression, it never occurred to me that there are some other actually continents that do this. Like I'm actually thinking about like we Africans, it's just this us and us. You raise quite an interesting point. Asians, they do these traditional medications. Europeans, Americans, they have this that and it didn't occur to me until now that you are actually raising it. Thank you so much. Aspire, you're back. Please continue from where you left. We still don't have Aspire.
do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so yes, while we have all these different types of remedies, natural remedies come in handy. This is the first line of defense. Even whenever you have a cold, before you take some Benylin in your fridge, the first thing is you ask yourself is, do I have lemons in my house? So these are some of the things that you always fall back on.
Exactly.
But then
Naturally.
also there's a lot going on when it comes to more serious diseases than just natural remedies, of course. And when we are to this is just natural remedies won't protect you from like secondary infection and everything. This is
Aspire, can you try to join with audio if it's possible? Just audio without the video. I think it will be much better. Dennis, while it's just you and me now,
Yeah.
I just wanted you maybe to conclude this conversation. I know there are so many conceptions and stories going around about the vaccines, about America trying to kill us, and people trying to put extra DNA extracts in our bodies. And what is your take on taking the vaccine? Have you taken the vaccine yet?
All right. Okay. So as we speak, I am among the less than 5% of Africans who've been fully vaccinated. It is not something that I am particularly proud of because, as a continent, the rollout has been quite slow, and we don't have a good number of the population. Yes, and we don't have a good number of the population being vaccinated. So, despite the fact that I am fully vaccinated, I feel odd because, yes, I'm fully vaccinated.
When
yes,
when did the rollout in Kenya started, and which vaccine are you using?
All right, thank you. Well, Kenya has actually done a lot. The Kenyan government procured its first doses of the vaccine earlier this year, actually, and initially we had Oxford AstraZeneca, which is what I got. Yes, which is what I got. It was the COVAX program, which was supported by various European and Western countries. But more recently, the government has been aggressively sourcing vaccines, and we've actually gotten Moderna. We got a consignment of Johnson and Johnson. So I mean, Kenya as a country is definitely ahead in vaccinating its people, and the more recent statistics were up to around 2 million people having at least one dose of the vaccine. But this is something that needs to be ramped up, not just in Kenya but also across the whole continent. So despite the fact that my country has done a lot to get the vaccine, I would like to see such aggressiveness all across the continent. Okay, we don't have a lot of anti-vax sentiments here in Kenya, although of course such individuals do exist, but they're a minority of the population. I think if you compare to Western countries, in Western countries the anti-vaccination sentiment is quite large, which is what has stopped some countries like the US from controlling this pandemic. So despite the fact that over half the population is vaccinated, the half that is not vaccinated is quite difficult to convince for them to get vaccinated. I guess when it comes to Africa, we maybe the fact that we are quite trusting of the West, would aid in such things as the vaccine rollout. I think what Africans need is just the opportunity to get vaccinated, and I believe that if enough vaccines were available, such such a rollout would definitely be taken up by a majority of the African population, because the anti-vax sentiment is not very entrenched here in Africa. However, Thandiwe, I cannot conclude this discussion without bringing an issue that is very close to my heart. Okay, earlier on, I think earlier this year, we had African countries, and there was a drive for Africa to manufacture the vaccines that already exist right here. Okay, but in April,
what do you mean already exist right here?
Sorry.
What do you mean we were under the pressure of developing a vaccine that already exists?
Okay, we know vaccine manufacturing is happening all over the world, right? Except in Africa. It's happening in Asia, it's happening in Europe, it's happening in America, in the Americas, if I may say. But it is not happening in Africa. Why is this not happening? the thing is, if we had vaccine manufacturing in Africa, it would help in rolling out the vaccine among the African populace, which is at the moment the least vaccinated in this recent vaccine drive on earth. This is something that we needed to change. There was a drive for, for this to change, whereby African governments wanted, or there was a drive by some African states to have the vaccine manufactured here in Africa. And as Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta had, earlier this year tried to lobby for that, but all attempts at this were blocked by the West. I must say that, the US, Canada, the UK, yes, and various. Okay, I'm getting to that, Thandiwe. So what we had was that, you see, these vaccines, after they are manufactured, their intellectual property is protected, okay, by the manufacturers who own the IP rights, meaning that you can't just go and manufacture the same vaccine without their authorization or without you compensating them. Okay, you must understand. You must understand.
So if you're gonna use the same methods that they've used, you have to buy like copyright something.
If you're essentially right, if you're essentially going to manufacture the same vaccine, you need authorization or licensing, which is what has happened in India. Indian companies have been licensed by these Western states, that Western companies that own, such as Moderna and the Oxford vaccine, all of them. So you need to be a licensed manufacturer for that to happen. So African countries have not. There was an attempt, I think it was in April, to temporarily lift the trademark protections, the patent protections on these vaccines. Okay, so that temporarily we can have the manufacture of these vaccines in Africa. Such attempts were blocked at the World Trade Organization by the West. It was blocked by Canada, the US, the UK, and various European states. Because these states were catering to the interest of the manufacturers. The manufacturers of these vaccines are all Western. You understand? Okay, not all of them, but most of them. Most of these vaccines are Western. Yeah. So the fact that most of these vaccines are Western, the Western states are obviously protecting their interests. Okay. So all attempts at a temporary lift of this at the World Trade Organization were blocked. Okay. So I must say that this was a sad thing, because vaccines literally save lives, and the fact that these Western states blocked such attempts is just goes to show what where their interests are. Okay, and we are obviously not a priority in such interests. So I think for us to cater against this in the future, for us to be better prepared, what we need is support of African institutions, so that when the next pandemic hits, we are ready with our own institutions, with our own researchers, with our own financing. I think from this moment on, we should learn our lesson and start investing seriously in our own, so that we don't have issues like this in the future, whereby we are begging Western countries to temporarily lift the patents so that we can create, we can make the vaccines. And this is not happening because we have the capacity. If the patents were temporarily lifted, we would be able to make these vaccines, but this didn't happen. But well and good, if in future we can manufacture our own vaccines, then we would not need to go beg other states. Yeah. Go ahead.
Exactly. And you know what frustrates me is that we go back to Kwame Nkrumah, we go back to Marcus Garvey. These people, this idea of one African continent. I mean, we're talking about Robert Mugabe, we're talking about Muammar Gaddafi, but obviously their actions were obviously in question. But it goes back to the decolonization. We have to stop relying on Americans. We have to stop relying on Asians and the Europeans about anything. But like I'm saying, it all goes back to union. I don't know. Maybe when first Kwame Nkrumah tried to bring this idea of African Union, it was about all African countries coming to become one, have one national currency, have one national government and stuff. But then they couldn't because the Americans, maybe they kept on interfering and knowing that if we can become one big state, we're going to become more powerful because of our resources, because of our infrastructures, because of our anything that we might have. But what I'm saying now is that when it comes to vaccines, we as the African Union, like you said, we need support from the governments. We need support to fund, and we need trust. We need them as an African Union to stand for us. And what I've seen is that since the creation of the African Union, there are so many bodies that have been created to subdivide the nation, the African continent, like the SADC. You see, we now have our own Southern African. I know there in the West, there's another union. There's so many unions that are forming out of that African Union that are further dividing our continent into sub-regions so that we don't want to work with each other. And if you can see that there are so many countries that are behind this idea of African Union. We have had Zimbabwe, we have had Libya, but when it comes to Libya, I can say maybe safely or not safely say that the Arab people, they maybe have this conception that they're not part of the Black community. So maybe at the end, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, they end up isolating each other. They end up isolating themselves from the rest of the Black community of Africa. And Africa, in South Africa and Nigeria, since they are the leading economies of Africa, they also don't really participate in this idea of becoming one country because they are self-reliant. They've had their own problems. And during the time when this was a hot topic of African Union in South Africa, I remember that time we had Jacob Zuma was less interested in the idea of union. He was interested in the Guptas and all the stuff that he was doing. So where do you think we are still lacking as an African continent so that we can all become one big nation that is going to stand with one currency and one voice when you are going to the European Union? Where is it? I know it's beyond us. It's beyond us as a generation. We are not going to achieve this in this particular generation that we are in. Obviously, we are looking forward to 50 to 30 years to come. Where do you think the gap is going to be filled between those who want and those who do not want to be part of this? And what are the benefits of having one African nation from the legal point of view?
Okay, well, I'd like to begin by saying this. There was never a point in history that Africa was one, okay? We have always been disintegrated, into various kingdoms and communities, so that historically, there was never a point where Africa was one whole continent together as one. Disintegration is part of the world. There was never a point that any part of the world was one. And even in historical societies where we have had like a huge coming together of states, they're still disintegrated. Even the US is divided into states, right? Even though it is a whole country, there's still disintegration. So, and just to clarify, you've said that we've had the various economic bodies disintegrating the continent. Actually, if I may just clarify on that, what these regional economic communities, which is what they are, ECOWAS, SADC, East Africa Community, what they exist for is actually to bring the continent together. They are not the enemy. They don't aim to break us apart. Okay, so historical blocks have already existed. You have mentioned how the northern part of the Sahel has always been quite Arab, and that is a fact. Okay, it has existed historically. Okay, it's sort of like
I don't think they are part of Africans. They associate themselves with Europeans, and yeah,
yes. Well,
they never were
this
part
is
of
correct.
Africans.
Okay, well, I do understand what you're saying. The northern part of Africa has a huge Arab influence, even historically. It is not something that just came about the other day. For hundreds of years, they have they have been known as the Maghreb region. Okay, so all these it's an influence of historical Islam, and so this is why they consider themselves African Arab countries. So despite the fact that they are in Africa, you could say that they are quite Arab. I mean, the full name of of Egypt is the Arab Republic of Egypt. Okay, it's not the African Republic of Egypt, is it? Yes, yes. You can Google that as well. You can Google that as well. But you see, yes, but this is not a problem. The fact that the northern part of Africa is, or rather associates itself very much with, Arab states, does not mean that they are the enemy, that we are not on the same, on the same block. We can still do trade with them. We are still brothers, we are still neighbors. So all we need
Exactly.
is support, to support each other. So just to clarify, the regional economic communities are not the enemy. ECOWAS is not bad, SADC is not bad. What we need is support of this. We need to look into what role such RECs are playing in the development of Africa, so that it is not just them being the enemy. They are there to serve African interests. Okay. The East African community, for example, has done a lot as a regional economic community, and it would be nice to see this happening all regional economic blocks, so that trade is fair, and so that they're not looking into issues of just trade, but they are even expanding more into funding and how we can fund things such as research. What we need is support of African institutions such as the Africa CDC, and so that we have the African Union supporting such institutions, so that in future pandemics we can be at a better position to support ourselves. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Without relying on donations.
Yes.
and handouts.
Yes.
Because
Indeed.
in this
We
Astra
cannot continue
that we
begging.
got
Yeah.
to South Africa, it was expired. Imagine, I know this has been linked to the corruption that has been happening, but it was expired and they donated it to the AU. So basically, we are donating expired vaccines to the AU. So this is the starting point for us, like really. But thanks, Dennis. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation with you. I love talking to you. Whenever I talk to you, I sit and think about things that you have said, and the whole day I'll be wondering what was Dennis trying to say. What was Dennis trying to say? But I love that you challenge my mental capacity, and then you give me something to think about the whole week.
Yes,
like I'll
thank
be
you.
thinking, what is this? How can we improve this? How can we attack this point that Dennis has raised? So I'm looking forward to so many conversations with you in future. I would love
Thank
to
you.
work with you. And I know Aspire has gone well, but it's fine.
Yeah.
He's going to join us next time. We have an interesting topic that is associated with him again. Dennis,
Okay.
we need just closing remarks about this vaccine. I'm 33 years old. I haven't been vaccinated yet. I'm here to get my first jab. These media people, have you seen the way they like when they're showing how people are being vaccinated? They show the whole needle entering your skin. That is the only thing that has been stopping me from taking my vaccine. I'm so scared of that. I'm so scared of that vaccine. Like it's long, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so scared. But I'm just gonna get mine. I think next week I'm gonna book, and then I'm gonna get mine. So, what are your last words about Africans who are skeptical about getting these vaccines? People don't want to get this vaccine because they are scared of being killed, of being traced, of their DNA being changed. What are your closing remarks about taking vaccine as Africans?
All right, thank you. So I'd like to finish by saying this: the vaccines are safe, Thandiwe. It is unfortunate that you are here discussing about vaccines and you're not vaccinated. You need to get that checked, because you need to lead by example. The vaccines that have been rolled out have been subject to extensive research and clinical trials, and they are science-based. Okay, you can do your own research. The research speaks for itself. At the end of the day, after you do your research, you will realize the vaccines are very safe. For us, you will not mutate, you will not die. Chances of these vaccines harming you are extremely negligible. Okay, they are very safe. So please, if you can get the chance, go out there, get your vaccine, be safe. Still wear your mask. It doesn't mean that you can't get COVID. Okay, this thing is here with us. Let's try to battle this thing. Let it begin with us. Let us go out. Let us support each other as Africans. If you're in a country such as SA and you're lucky enough to get the vaccine, you just step up to it, go get the vaccine, because there are people, I assure you, on this
Definitely.
continent who would die to get that vaccine, and they don't have the chance. So if you're
Understand.
fortunate enough,
Yeah.
go get vaccine. I would also like to urge African governments to support their own people in acquiring quality vaccines that have obviously not expired or things like that, so that so that this rollout is done safely. The management of this rollout is definitely overseen by the state, and so that we can have Africa standing up against this pandemic. And as a final remark, and this is a bit out of topic, I'd just like to urge us to pray for our brothers in Guinea. There was a coup attempt. So, despite our sentiments, right, as Africans,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what we need to do is support Guinea as a country and the institutions that are there, so that Guinea can go back to its glory, and it can go back to a democracy. Let us not have such harsh criticism,
Exactly.
from the African Union and ECOWAS, criticizing these very brave soldiers who deposed the president. Okay, let us support this country in
Exactly.
going
Let
back
us
to what
support.
it was.
Yes.
Let us not focus on just
Yes.
criticizing these people and saying that this coup will not help. We need this. No, no, no. Let us support the country. Let us pray for our brothers in Guinea. Viva Guinea, Viva Africa. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. That's why I like you. You are so considerate. You're so intelligent. I mean, like, I had forgotten about the issue in Guinea, but yeah, let's just keep them in our prayers about the coup. And I mean, we are doing so well so far as an African nation. I mean, Zambia managed to conduct its presidential elections. I mean, we had drawbacks with KZN, the violence, the Gauteng violence, but as a nation, as an African, I know like 3/4 of our population still needs to be vaccinated. But like Dennis said and encouraged from the intellectual point of view, let's get vaccinated. It's very safe. If these people wanted to kill us, they would kill us using these polio, but we still get vaccines for polio, for measles, for everything from the same institution that we are not trusting for COVID. So I mean, really, if they wanted to kill us or trace us, I mean, we are using cell phones. They would have better ways of tracing us than these the COVID vaccine. So I'm encouraging everyone out of there to take the vaccine. Don't be scared. It's not going to change anything. It's just going to protect you from the severe symptoms of COVID. So let's not be negative about this. Let's go and take our vaccine. I'm going to take my vaccine next week, and I'm going to post it that I've taken my vaccine. Thanks, Dennis. I'm definitely going to invite you in the next following shows when I'm talking about the African continent, and I'll be needing your legal advice. I know Aspire, you could not be with us today. And this show actually was supposed to be a 30-minute show, but we managed to make it an hour. Thanks, Dennis, for that. Thanks, Den. Thanks, everyone. My producers. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for watching our show. Join us again next time when we come up with another informative and exciting show here in Bob Chat. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much, guys. Next time. Bye.